that foam rolling exciting. Woohoo!
Hooray!
Now it's time to march in place, and I could ignore that and not do it, but it's very important to warm up in a general way. I'm going to warm up my entire body, and I'm going to do it with you, because honestly, when you put in march in place, it feels kind of silly to do that by yourself.
It does.
So I will do it by myself with Elliot here. I'm not really by myself, but and I can see you too. But just to show you that it can be done and it doesn't have to be completely uncomfortable. Okay, so I've got my gym boss, and I'm going to hit it and start.
Awesome, fantastic. So now Laura is right. It's very easy to see something like this and say, nah, let's just go ahead and get started. But going through your warm-up is super important. I tell my clients all the time, if you don't have time to warm up, you don't have time to work out, because the warm-up is so important for priming your body for the movements to come. So now what Laura's doing here is she's just alternating the foot. She's just kind of moving her hands just like she's doing a little march. So now what this is accomplishing is she's increasing her body temperature. Warm-up is a literal term. She's also loosening on up those muscles a little bit more than what we were doing with the foam roller. And she's preparing her brain that some exercise is about to happen. Something that's kind of cool about exercise is even when you just know you're about to do something, your heart rate kind of increases a little bit. So you're just kind of coming to grips with the work that's about to happen, which is a good thing.
Is that what happened to me all day? The nerves of doing day 11 and 12. I was so scared. I know what's coming, people.
No need to be afraid.
But don't you worry, you're only on day 1.
That's right. So now we're in a gym, so we've got a bike, we've got treadmills, we've got some other pieces of equipment that we could use, but you really don't need all that fancy equipment. You don't need big expensive treadmills and bikes and things in order to do a warm-up. All you really need is about an area about 2 by 2 feet wide, and as long as you're moving, that's sufficient for your warm-up. So now all she's doing is she's got a light pace here. So now since we're trying to warm up the body, and you should have a little bit of a light sweat going by the end of your 5 minutes. So it should be somewhat challenging in terms of increasing your heart rate, but not so challenging that it's actually tiring you out. You don't want to be tapping into the gas tank that you're going to be using for your workout. So if this is too easy and you don't feel your heart rate increasing at all, you don't feel a little bit warmer, then you can just make those movements a little bit larger. Just larger by driving the knee up, larger by moving the hands and increasing the range of motion can just serve to kind of increase that heart rate just a little bit. So now notice a couple of things I want to point out here on Laura. Go ahead and turn to the side here for me, Laura. So now notice one thing is that she's clenching and keeping her belly on nice and tight the entire time. If she was not doing that, she would look like this. She would have her back arched, she would have a big tall chest. That's a bad position. Don't do that. Don't do the marching band style march. Not a good idea here. Because we want to have a nice, flat, stable spine all the time. We're going to do this with a whole bunch of our exercises today, is maintaining what's called neutral spine. That's where your spine goes in a straight line like this. So your spine can actually move, but as long as it's staying neutral, your back is going to be protected. And we want to start that even with just the warm-up. So she's got a nice neutral spine here. How you doing workout-wise?
I'm doing very well. I definitely have a little glisten, a little moist.
Yes. A little glow.
A little out of breath. So this is probably the perfect pace for me.
Perfect. So now notice I asked Laura, how are you doing? And she's able to answer. That actually is important. There's a little kind of trick in the trade that we use as personal trainers sometimes. It's called the talk test. The talk test means, can you talk while you're doing an exercise? If you're above a certain level of intensity, you can't speak. If it's so hard you can't speak, you're usually above about 70% of your maximum heart rate. If you can speak, you're usually below about 70% of your maximum heart rate. And for warm-ups, you want to stay below that level. So you should be able to talk while you're doing this. So an easy way is recite what's your name, recite your address, say something. Can you speak during the exercise? Usually a pretty good idea. You remember your name and address?
No. Let's see how I can talk.
Too late, you passed the test. Too late, already passed. So go ahead and turn on this way for me. So now, how are you doing heart rate wise? You doing okay here?
Heart rate wise, I can definitely feel that it's pumping quicker.
Good.
I feel pretty good. I'm a little bit out of breath, so I'm having a little trouble catching my breath and talking to you.
Then if that's the case, then you can kind of slow down your tempo a little bit here. So that's also kind of a nice thing about not using a treadmill or not using a bike, is that you can actually dictate your pace depending on what you need. If you need to go a little bit higher in order to get into that warmed up range where you can increase the temperature and increase the heart rate, that's fine. But if you need to back off a little bit and slow it down a little bit, then you can also do that too, just by shortening your range of motion and kind of slowing your movements just a wee little bit. You weren't nervous about today, were you?
Oh no, and now I remember where I live.
That's right. I forget sometimes.
Maybe
too,
I should hop in the car and go there now.
Hey, no leaving now. No leaving now. We're just getting started.
And that's why I hired a trainer, because
That's right.
he can push me through
That's right.
and teach me things that even I don't know. So it's a good thing.
Everyone's better with a watchful eye, sometimes more watchful than others. So how are we doing on time here? I'm going to check your gym boss there. Oh, you're doing fantastic. So now remember, I want you to think, keep that core nice and braced, keep that nice neutral spine, and we're looking good. So now your total warm-up time shouldn't take very long. It's going to be about 10 minutes of foam rolling time maximum if you're moving from one exercise to the next one fluidly. And there we go.
There we
Awesome.
go. Excellent. And warm-up time generally I have between 5 and 10 minutes. In week 1, I started at 10 minutes to get a little bit more of a general warm-up because I knew that the workout would not take an entire hour. And as I've gotten closer to days 11 and 12, I've shrunk it down to 5 minutes warm-up, general warm-up.
Perfect.